so stupid. God. Hey, Dan.
Hey, man, what's going on?
Dude, I can't do this. Can you help me out?
What are you trying to do?
I'm trying to learn how to complete the square.
Oh, yeah, man, of course, I can show you.
You got me?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Alright, Dan, here's my first homework problem. Can you help me out with this?
Yeah, sure, let's give it a shot. You can take a seat, though, so I can teach it to you.
That makes sense.
Alright, Eddie. So what we have here is x squared minus 3x minus 18 equals 0. So the first thing you have to know about completing the square for quadratics is that the standard form looks like ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0.
Alright, Dan, what's the first step?
Okay, well, what you need to know now is that a, b, and c, what they stand for.
Okay.
A is the coefficient on the x squared term, b is also a coefficient but only on the x term, and then c is a constant, so it's just going to be a number.
Alright, what is a, b, and c on our original problem?
Well, a, since there's no number in front of x, it's really 1 times x squared.
Okay.
So a is 1, b is negative 3 because of the minus sign,
Okay.
and c is negative 18 because of the minus sign.
Okay, that makes sense.
Alright, so in the first step, you have to isolate c, which is the constant. So that means get it to the other side of the equation.
Okay.
So then the first step, add 18 to both sides. And what you get is x squared minus 3x equals 18.
Alright, Dan, what's the second step?
Okay, in the second step, what we need to do is find 1/2 of b. So remember b from the standard form is plus bx, and here it's going to be plus negative 3x. So b is negative 3.
Okay. So we're finding 1/2 of that.
Yeah. So negative 3 over 2.
Okay.
Right? Because you just put it 1 over 2. When you find the half of anything, you just divide by 2.
Right.
And then we square it.
Okay.
And you have to remember the parentheses because you're squaring everything inside.
Okay.
And what you do with that is add it to both the left and the right side of the equation.
So we're adding it to x squared minus 3x and 18.
Right. So the left and the right. So x squared minus 3x plus negative 3/2 squared equals 18 plus quantity negative 3/2 squared.
Alright, Dan, what's the third step we gotta do?
Okay, so next, all you have to do is change the left side, x squared minus 3x plus negative 3/2 squared, into a perfect square binomial, which would be x minus 3/2 squared equals everything that you had on the other side.
Okay. So all we do is put x squared and the term we added into parentheses and square them.
Right.
Alright, Dan, why does the left red side equal the left blue side?
You mean, how do we get from here to here?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll show you. So, what we got in the end was x minus 3/2 squared.
Okay.
So, I'll come over here and show you what that actually equals. X minus 3/2 squared. What this really means squared is that you're taking this and you're multiplying it by itself twice.
Okay.
So, in other words, it looks like x minus 3/2 times x minus 3/2. And you learned earlier in the year to FOIL. You do the first times the first term, the outer terms, the inner terms, and the last terms.
Okay.
And then you add them all up, combine like terms, and you get the standard form of a quadratic. So x times x is x squared. Negative 3/2 times x is negative 3/2 x. Minus another 3/2 x, because x times negative 3/2. Then the last terms, which is negative 3/2 times negative 3/2, which is positive 9 over 4. So now that we multiplied everything out and we got all our individual terms, we could just combine like terms. So x squared is by itself, then negative 3/2 x minus another 3/2 x is really minus 3x. Because you get minus 6 over 2, and 6 over 2 is 3. Plus 9/4. Which, if you look at 9/4, is the same thing as over here when we took half of b and squared it and added it to both sides. So when you FOIL this, it gets out to this. So you can, instead of showing all this work, you can just make it right into the perfect square binomial.
Alright, Dan, now that that's clear, what do we do next?
Okay, so now that we've completed the square, all we have to do is solve for x. So on the left side, we're going to keep it the same, x minus 3/2 squared. And on the right side, we combine like terms. And if you do this in your calculator, you'll find that it comes out to be 81 over 4. Because you squared this term, so the denominator is going to be fourths. Now that you have this side squared, you can't subtract or add 3/2 or anything unless this is taken out of the equation. So the way to do that is to take the square root. So the square root and the square cancel, and you take the square root of this side too. Okay, so now coming up here, we have, because the square and the square root cancel, on the left we have x minus 3/2, and then on the right, this radical 81 fourths is the same thing as square root of 81 over the square root of 4. So you just take the square roots of both numbers. Equals, because it's a square, plus or minus 9 over 2. Now you add 3/2 both sides, and you get x equals plus or minus 9/2 plus 3/2. Okay, so now we just solve for x. We have x equals positive 9/2 plus 3/2. And in the second case, we have x equals negative 9/2 plus 3/2. Here we get x equals 12/2, which equals 6. And here we get x equals 6/2, which equals 3. So your answer comes out to be 6 and 3. Okay, do you want to do one more problem?
Yeah, sure, that'd be great.
Okay, read it off to me.
5x squared minus 20x plus 10.
Equals 0?
Yes.
Okay. So the first thing you do is isolate the constant. So minus 10 on both sides. You get 5x squared minus 20x equals negative 10.
So now we take half of b, right?
Well, not yet, because what you need is a coefficient of 1 on x squared. So really you need to divide by 5 on both sides.
Okay.
So you get x squared minus 4x equals negative 2. Now we can take half of b.
Okay.
So x squared minus 4x plus half of b squared, which is negative 4 over 2 squared, equals negative 2 plus the same thing, negative 4/2 squared. Okay, so now we can change this into the perfect square binomial, parenthesis x minus 4/2 squared equals negative 2 plus negative 4/2 squared. Alright, let's come up here. Combine like terms on the right. So on the left, we're just going to keep x minus 4/2 squared
Okay.
equals negative 2. And this negative 4/2 is really like negative 2. So negative 2 squared is 4.
Right.
And then x minus 4/2 squared equals 2.
Right. So now we take the square root.
Right. Square root of both sides.
Okay. Cancels.
These cancel. X minus 4/2 equals plus or minus, almost
Right.
missed it, the square root of 2. Now we do x equals plus or minus square root of 2 plus 4/2.
Okay.
Alright, so to finish the problem, we just do x, 4/2 is the same thing as 2, plus or minus square root of 2. So your one answer is going to be x equals 2 plus radical 2, and then the second one is x equals 2 minus radical 2. You can do it in your calculator and get a decimal answer, or you can leave it in its exact answer form, which is with the square root. So your answer is going to come out to be 2 plus radical 2 and 2 minus radical 2.
Wow, that was really helpful, Dan. What? Where did he go? Oh well.